I start this presentation on the artist Lillian Schwartz with a disclaimer. Lillian Schwartz has contributed tremendously to the study of art and technology. She has been awarded numerous times for her pioneering work. Her curiosity led her continually to new ideas, resulting in new techniques. Her catalog is so great it can only be hinted at in this short presentation. I hope it serves to make you aware of this extraordinary woman and some of her contributions. So, Lillian Schwartz, born 1927, is an American artist considered a pioneer of computer-mediated art and one of its first artists, notable for basing almost her entire body of work on computational media. Many of her groundbreaking projects were done in the 1960s and 1970s, well before the desktop computer revolution made computer hardware and software widely available to artists. Since Lillian was born in 1927, she is 94 years old now, going on 95. And we've got a range of pictures of Lillian from her high school days. Well, this last one is probably more in her 80s, but she's hanging in there. An invitation to exhibit at the Venice Biennale 2022 is just another accolade in the long and full life of Lillian Schwartz. These works are her submissions. Who is she? Lillian Schwartz is best known for her pioneering work in the use of computers for what is now known as computer-generated art and computer-aided art analysis, including graphics, film, video, animation, special effects, virtual reality, and multimedia. Her work was recognized for its aesthetic success and was the first in this medium to be acquired by the Museum of Modern Art. In 1922, the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan, announced the acquisitions of the Artist Archive, comprised of over 5,000 items, including Schwartz's artwork, personal papers, photographs, books, and more, spanning from her childhood into her late career. So let's look at her basics. Her early life. She was born in 1927 in Cincinnati, Ohio. She was the 12th of 13 children. Her parents were recent immigrants. Her father was Russian and her mother English. By 13 years of age, she had lost 6 of her siblings, as well as her father. After high school, she studied to become a nurse under a World War II education program. She contracted polio shortly after she was stationed as a nurse in post-war Japan, and that paralyzed her for a time. While she was recuperating in her rehabilitation in Japan, she studied calligraphy with the artist Tashiro. After her rehabilitation and return to the United States, she continued to experiment with media, including metal and plastic sculpture. In this period, she had to have surgery for a thyroid tumor, possibly for exposure to plastic solvents. But we know Lillian now mostly for her computer work, but I'd like to take you back really into almost her high school days to show you how accomplished she was in other media as well. This is some of her drawings. We've got the Japanese lady created in 1950, and here's the Chinese lady created in 1940, and these are her drawings. Then we go on to collage. Here's a funny one, Jack and Jill, made in 1940. And the other one, 1950, very colorful, is called Time Gel, whatever that means. Then she also painted quite a bit. 1952, we've got this very fascinating portrait of a woman with these big eyes. That's oil on a masonite board. It's about 18 by 36. And then a much larger painting called Lady with Foot. You can see the foot is down there in the lower right corner of this painting. This is oil on canvas, and as I said, larger. It's 5 feet by 3 feet, and it's from 1962. Painting continued. On the left, it's a small oil painting on masonite board, shows a little boy drawing, and I assume this might be her son. She first showed that in 1973. Here's one that to me is reminiscent of a lot of her computer work. It's oil on canvas, 3 feet by 2.5 feet, and it was shown in 1983. Sculpture. Here's Bear, created in 1957. It's cement and vermiculite over wire and plaster. It has a black acrylic finish. It's just 10.5 inches by 8.5 inches, so it's kind of a tiny little bear. Then we also have one from 1982, quite a few years later, called Hanged, and that's kind of a mixed media. Before we go on to this computer part of her life, I think it's interesting that some of the paintings and other works go well into the 70s and 80s, and I could have found more from the 90s and on, but she was still involved in so many different media while she was gaining accolades worldwide for her work in computers. I found this, and this head from 1968 is a well-known silkscreen of hers, and to me, it's beginning her thinking of computers and how they work in the art world. And she says, after conceiving the graphic head, I sketched it on graph paper. Using the sketch as my model, I redrew the image with alphanumeric characters designating levels of gray. Eventually, the image was output onto black and white microfilm. The final image was created with the aid of traditional silkscreen techniques. One screen was for the yellow background. A positive of head was used for the red foreground. Graph paper is still used where an artist wishes to determine coordinates in advance of typing them in, particularly where the project involves 3 dimension. However, an artist can now compose a final color image on the screen and then use a color separation program prior to filming. Each frame then contains only those elements of the image that will be printed or silkscreened in a selected color or black. So before we go further on the whole computer thing, what is computer art? It's considered any art in which computers play a role in production or display of the artwork. Such art can be an image, sound, animation, video, CD-ROM, DVD-ROM, video game, website, algorithm, performance, or gallery installation. Many traditional disciplines are now integrating digital technologies. The lines between traditional works of art and new media works created using computers has been blurred. For instance, an artist may combine traditional painting with algorithm art and other digital techniques. As a result, defining computer art by its end product can be difficult. Computer art is bound to change over time since changes in technology and software directly affect what is possible. So how did Lillian really contribute to this whole world? She began working with technological media in the 1960s with projects that included electronic mobiles and light boxes containing moving fluid. In 1966, she became a member of the Experiments in Art and Technology group called EAT, which fostered collaborations between artists and engineers. Her complex kinetic sculpture, Proxima Centauri, was included in the 1968 MoMA exhibition, The Machine as Seen at the End of the Mechanical Age. The sculpture was later used as a special effect for a Star Trek episode in which it served as a prison for Spock's brain. Subsequently, she worked as a consultant at AT&T Bell Labs, IBM's Thomas Watson Research Lab, and at Lucent Technologies Bell Labs Innovations. On her own and with leading scientists, engineers, physicists, and psychologists, she developed effective techniques for the use of the computer in film and animation. By 1975, Schwartz and a Bell Lab collaborator had made 10 of the first digitally created computer animated films to be exhibited as works of fine art. Schwartz has also investigated the computer's uses for art analysis and restoration. As she says, computers can be made to accommodate the entire breadth of artistic thought. So, further detail on Lillian. She was called a pioneer in establishing computers as a valid and fruitful artistic medium and a trailblazer and virtuoso. Her films have been included in the Venice Biennale and the Cannes Film Festival, among many others, and have received numerous awards. In the 1980s, a computer-generated TV spot that she created for the newly renovated Museum of Modern Art in New York won an Emmy Award. Besides establishing computer art as a viable field of endeavor, Schwartz additionally contributed to scientific research areas such as visual, color, and color perception, and sound. Her own personal efforts have led to the use of the computer in the philosophy of art, whereby databases containing information as to palettes and structures of paintings, sculptures, and graphics by artists such as Picasso and Matisse are used by Schwartz to analyze the choices of those artists and to investigate the creative process itself. Schwartz's creative cobbling together of different, often cutting-edge technologies has been said to prefigure what would later become common practice in such programs as Photoshop and Final Cut Pro. Below is a link to a 1972 film created by Lillian. In conclusion, Lillian is a groundbreaking and prolific artist still at work creatively at 94 years old. Her submissions to the Venice Biennale 2022 are typical of her film work. As with most great artists, she seems to have a need to create art. It is part of her very being. We are fortunate that she is a Renaissance woman, driven by curiosity to continually seek new avenues of expression.